Thought Bubble Audio.
Look, up in the sky.
You will never find the more wretched hive of scum and villainy.
Welcome to Beer with Geeks with Tim and Frank.
Who are you?
I'm Batman.
I am Iron Man.
Your friendly neighborhood Spider-Man.
Hi, Christopher. I'm Nero.
My name is Inigo Montoya.
You're a wizard, Harry.
A couple of guys with a couple of beers and a whole lot of pop culture nostalgia.
Make it so, number one.
Ladies and gentlemen, the Beatles.
Named the dog Indiana.
Life finds a way.
I am serious. And don't call me Shirley.
Now sit back and crack open a cold one, because it's time for Beer with Geeks.
It comes in paints.
Shaken, not stirred.
Great Scott!
I was way off. I knew it started with an S, though.
Hi, and welcome to Beer with Geeks, where two geeks geek out with beer. I'm Tim, and with me, as always, is my man who loves to prioritize things. It's Frank. How are you today?
If there's one thing I love, it is putting things in rank of how important they are.
I was thinking about your abhorrence of ranking things the other day, and I don't know why it. I don't even know why it popped into my brain. I must have been listening to something where someone was like, "Oh, I don't know if I can choose," and I was like, "Oh, it's Frank."
Yeah, 100%.
Frank never knows if he can choose, and that's okay. That's okay.
It's gotten me this far.
Yes, absolutely, it has. How are you today, my friend? How are things?
I'm doing well. Things are good. You know, kid is good. Kid is cute.
That's good. Is your kid B
Life
or
is good.
Flo? I couldn't remember. Remember when we did that?
I believe, yes, mine was Belinda, I believe.
Belinda,
right?
and mine is Florence. Yeah.
Florence,
So Scott,
yes.
our friend of the show from the DC Film Squadcast,
Yeah.
texted me the other day, and he's like, "You guys, you guys be good parents to B and Flo. Teach them well." And so it got me thinking about that. But then that also got me thinking about our topic for today. But before we talk about that, let's talk about what drink is in your hand today, and what is that drink?
Yeah, I had to prioritize and pick just one, and I picked the Big Tree Brewing Dirty Dog Brown Ale. Had a family gathering.
It's getting warm out.
Back.
It's getting warm out.
Is.
Frank must be
It's
drinking
time for a brown ale.
He's drinking his.
Shut up. Shut up. This is 40 degrees right now. I had a family gathering a couple weekends back, and one of my wife's uncles he loves his brown ales, and he loves good beer, so he picked these up from the Big Tree Brewing Company in it looks like Williston, Vermont. Yeah, Williston, Vermont is where they're from. And it says, "This beer is dedicated to the puddle-playing, squirrel-chasing mud magnets we called our best friends. May they always take the path more dirty." Dirty Dog.
I like that.
Brown ale.
Very good. And I'm glad that you were enjoying it.
I never said that.
I'm actually drinking a glass of red wine tonight instead of anything, mostly because
Pinky's out.
We had some put your pinky down. We had some friends come over, brought a bottle of wine, and so when you open the bottle and you don't finish it, you're like, oh well, now I have to drink this bottle.
Oh yeah, gotta finish it.
Yeah, I have to finish it. So this is a SIMI, SIMI, established in 1876. And so it's just a nice bottle of Merlot from 2019. I come from the school of I have no idea about wine.
Sure.
So I'm going to take a sip. And I say, it's a little dry, a little tart, a little fruity. All things that Merlot probably should be, probably.
I would say so. That sounds about right.
Yay, I know things. Yay, I saw Sideways.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah.
And so it's good. This is an unrelated question to our topic, but are you a red drinker or a white drinker?
I like red a little bit more. I tend to prefer red. Yeah. Yeah. I do like. I enjoy both, but I tend to lean towards the reds more for sure. Yeah.
Yeah, because I'm a white. I lean white, and I used to lean red. Like that was the go-to for a while, but then something happened. I was like, you know what? Whites are just a little. They just you know how different alcohols affect you differently.
For sure.
And whites just make me giddy, you know, and I like that. So I lean white. But this red,
a happy Tim is a good Tim.
Exactly. But this Merlot is very good all the same.
Right on.
So anyway, I was thinking about like our busy schedules. We're dads, be in flow, and all that. You know, we work. You know, 1, 2, 7 jobs, and so. And we were, so when we were going back and forth, you know, like, what should we talk about? You know, whatever else. And, you know, we do this, you know, every week. You know, we've been doing 450 some odd episodes of the show. We always talk, what are we going to talk about? And it's becoming harder to find things to talk about because it's so hard to just keep up with stuff. And I just don't know where my brain is at. But, like, I still want to. So this is kind of where the topic. So like we talked about like, oh, we should do The Last of Us. Well, guess who hasn't finished it? This guy. Like, yeah. Joel's still in a snowbank. Like that's how far away I am. So like, so I just like, how do you choose?
Yeah.
Because you don't want to lose your geekiness, right? That's the stuff that you love. You've got a Superman statue behind you. There's Star Trek stuff. There's one of the things autographed. There's a Batmobile in your other corner. I don't know what's behind me because I'm not looking at self view because I would just stare at myself.
Sure, you've got lots of comic book art. You've got a shelf full of books. You've got, statuettes, a Batmobile, a camera, a bust of Lincoln. Like you've got, all these things that represent your personality back there.
Mm-hmm. I do have a bust of Lincoln back there, don't I? That's actually bookend. That was given to my. Well, I'm going to do this blind. Here, look, that was so good.
Well done.
Well, thank you. This was given to my Pepe. He was the principal of Abraham Lincoln School.
Oh, cool.
And so when he retired, they gave him Abraham Lincoln bookends that you could murder somebody with. These things are heavy.
Are they heavy?
Oh my gosh, yeah, they're so heavy. I have one on the shelf. Another one is actually being used as a bookend because
as a bookend. Okay, cool.
But yeah. So anyway, like, how do you just choose? Like, because like you do, Superman and Lois.
Yep.
The Starkville's House of L, Superman and Lois. So like, you have to prioritize that.
Sure.
You watch Picard every week.
I do.
Me too. I watch Mandalorian every week.
As do I.
Yeah. But then everything else just kind of like slips.
Yeah, those are the main things that I keep up with in the geek realm. I have a lot of TV that I watch with my wife Marissa.
Mm-hmm.
Not a lot, but a decent amount, yeah. But then I have a handful of geeky stuff that I watch on my own primarily. And yeah, it is hard. It is hard. In fact, just this past week, I had just a busy week at work, busy week taking care of my daughter, and I was 2 episodes behind on Picard, and an episode behind on The Mandalorian for several days. Like, you get in those, and I was worried about getting to being 3 episodes behind on Picard, and I hadn't watched 2 episodes of Superman and Lois for piling up even before I had a chance to watch them. So yeah, it gets real busy even with the stuff you want to prioritize. It's hard to make them a priority. I generally have room slots, if you will. I talk about this as with Marissa as like I have like 3 slots, like 3 things that I can keep track of at a given time. And with TV, it's like I've got 2 or 3, and of things that I can truly like devote attention to and like remember what was happening last week and let me like follow along. Like that's my capacity. So
that's fascinating. I did not know that about you.
Sometimes I do more, sometimes I do less, but like that's sort of like the sweet spot for me is like if I've got like 3 shows, then that's really the most I'm able to sort of keep in my brain for a given amount of time.
I think my wife is like that. We've never talked about it in those terms, but if we watch, she's got to finish a show before we start another show. Otherwise, it's like
I start to get a little antsy if I'm spread too thin. If I'm watching too many shows at once, then I start to get a little it's a little anxious about it. Honestly, it's like I don't want to take on another show. I don't have room in my life for another show right now.
Yeah, I feel that way too. But it's because like we don't binge, so like I'm still watching Willow on Disney Plus.
Sure,
like even though they canceled the one because I think it took us months to like watch and like not me, I'd watch it all in like 2 days. I think in some parts, if it was up to me, like I would just keep going. But she's like a savorer. Like that was good. We'll come back to another episode in a few weeks.
A few weeks.
Oh
wow,
my gosh, yeah. And so
when we get into something, we'll do like maybe 1 to maybe 2 episodes a night for a little bit. But then we're also keeping up. Like for example, we just finished Shrinking on Apple TV Plus. Highly recommend. I know you're planning to watch it, but for anyone listening, Shrinking on Apple TV Plus, excellent. It's I can't say enough good things about it. We'll cover it on the show at some point. But like we were working through all that, pretty much that whole season was already out. So we were like watching 1 or 2 episodes of that every night, plus whatever new episodes of some of our other favorite shows were coming out. The Last of Us, Abbott Elementary, American Auto, like those are things we watch together. But for me, I have, only an hour here or there, like, oh, okay, I'm going to, whatever, while the baby's taking a nap or something, I might be able to squeeze in an episode of something, or maybe, more realistically, 20 minutes of something. And so you work your way through a couple episodes of whatever's geeky stuff is piling up. That's how I make it work, is try to watch episodes of whatever. And then when it comes to movies, it's usually like a kind of the same way that you and I plan. All right, I'm going to podcast tonight, after the baby goes to sleep or whatever. Similarly, like, all right, I'm going to go see, Black Adam tonight after the baby's asleep. Sort of like that, and make room. Like, are you good? Can you stay home to cover? Okay, cool. If you want to go see a movie on your own, you go for it too. But I'm doing this on this Wednesday or whatever.
That's something I don't do, and I probably should. She, Flo goes to sleep at, let's say she falls asleep between 8 and 8:30. Let's say because of daylight savings. Nuts.
Yeah.
So 7:30 was a sweet spot. 8 to 8:30, it's real late. By the time you get out of there, it's dark, and you're like, oh, I'm like ready to go to bed now too. But I don't say like, okay, so like I'm out at, let's say at 8:30. There's a movie at 9. Theater's 10 minutes from my house. I could go, but like then I don't want to be in the theater until 11:15. Like I don't want to watch Avatar: The Way of Water until 1:00 in the morning. I just don't want to
see.
That.
That's why I haven't seen that movie. Right? It's because like I can't. I just can't. I don't have room for a 3+ hour movie.
No,
2.5 hour.
Not in one sitting. Like
not in one sitting. Exactly.
Like if I sit down, like we sit down to watch TV. Let's say it's 9:00. I've got anywhere between 20 and 45 minutes in me.
Yep.
Like that's it.
Yes.
It's all I have. So I'm so selective about, and what's weird is that like if I'm by myself, I have more stamina, but if I'm with my wife, I have less stamina. And I don't know why. I think because like I get up and move around, or like I do something else, but like when I'm just sitting there, I don't have a lot in me. No gas in the tank.
Yeah.
It's tough. So for me,
I know.
To prioritize, I do something similar. I try not to let things pile, but I do a lot of I'm folding laundry, so I'm watching 15 minutes of this.
Sure.
Or I'm like getting my clothes ready for the next day. Most of the stuff I watch, I end up watching on my iPad now. Like I just like carry it around.
Yes, I've started doing that too. I used to not really understand people who talked about carrying their iPad around. Like, why? Like, why do you need to do that? Now I get it. Like, while I'm cooking, while I'm doing the dishes, while I'm, taking care of laundry.
Emptying the dishwasher, folding the laundry. Like, that's the time that I basically watch stuff, because I'm like still have to do those tasks. So I, Sunday mornings, my wife takes my daughter out of the house to church for like an hour 15 or whatever before I go to work. So I'm like, I vacuum and I empty the dishwasher. I go my clothes ready before I go to work and like all this stuff. And so like, but that's the peak time that I have. I can fit a whole episode of something in that time.
Yes.
So like, it's really like, wow, a whole episode. I feel like a king. I can't even tell you. Oh my god,
luxury! Yeah. I got to from beginning to end. What a victory!
Yep.
Like I see that the Mandalorian has a 30-minute episode. I'm like, I might get to finish this in one sitting this time.
Not that I don't love longer storytelling, but like when something is 30 minutes, I'm like, I can do that. Yeah. I can do 30.
I can fit that.
40 can't fit that, but I can fit 30.
Right.
Yeah,
I'm in this funny thing now where I think I've mentioned on the show that I started binging Frasier when my daughter was born.
Yes,
and so during midnight feedings and stuff like that, I had that on in the background. And haven't, she's slipping through the night and stuff, and there's not as many of those weird hours that she's up where I'm the only one up with her. It's happening. Really doesn't happen anymore. So I have kind of fallen off doing that. But whenever I have the rare opportunity or it occurs to me, I should watch another episode of Frasier, I usually have about one episode's worth of time to do that. And the funny thing is, I'm in this off-kilter thing where I'm always in the middle of an episode. So instead of I'm watching from the middle of one to the middle of the next, and then like a week goes by and I go from the middle of that one to the middle of the next one.
That's so weird.
I just can't get it right. I just want to get it back in, knock it back into sync. I'm watching one from beginning to end.
When we're done here, you need to like take your iPad and like watch the rest of that episode while you're brushing your teeth or something.
That's it. You're right.
Like
you're
you
right.
just gotta
while I'm brushing my teeth and stuff.
Yeah, just like that one. That's just the right amount of time for 10 minutes where you're like, I can do washing my face and I'm watching Frasier. Because you don't want to
going from midpoint to midpoint.
Yeah, because you don't want to spend because I don't want to spend all my time watching something either. Because like I would like to talk to my wife too. And I have other interests, right? And so, but what I'm finding is that like I always have been this like where I get into moods for particular things. So like, I'm not in the mood for The Last of Us, so I'm not going to finish it until I'm in the mood.
Yes,
because that's part of the priority. I'm not going to force myself because then I won't enjoy it. So right now I'm in a Star Trek mood. So instead of like watching all the things that I could be watching that are current, I'm watching The Next Generation, like from season 1, right? And that's more enjoyable to me. So I don't feel so. In some ways, I'm like I'm not keeping current, but I'm still prioritizing a geeky thing. It's just an older geeky thing.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's something that it's. Have you seen every episode of The Next Generation, or is this your first time going through every? Yeah, right. So there you go. You're still sort of it's a geeky thing that you love, and it's new to you still. Even.
It is. Oh yeah.
It's just you're scratching the itch that you have right now. You have a Star Trek itch, and you're scratching it.
Yep, absolutely.
I'm pretty sure you should get medicated for that, but that's a different story. Like I think I see nothing wrong with that. I do the same thing. That's why I'm very much yes-anding you, because I do the same thing where I go through phases like that, and it's like, okay, I'm feeling like, sometimes it's watching stuff that I've seen already. Like, I really feel like watching, this movie. It's been a couple of years since I watched, I don't know, Superman 3 or something, like, and I'll fall back into it. The one you thought I was going to say Smallville, but it's actually been a while since I've watched any Smallville.
I was thinking about watching Smallville today because that's what I was watching when Flo was born. That's right. Yes, I fell off that train, but I would like to get back to it because Talkville, the Smallville podcast, is going to catch up to where I am faster than I would like it to.
That's funny.
Yeah. What about you? Used to be a huge comic reader, and that's something that I still actually really try. Probably more than watching things, I actually do prioritize because I read before I go to bed, and I go through phases where I'm like, I'm going to read this. I got to read books for a while, and then I go for a phase where I'm like, I got to read comics for a while, and then I like oscillate back and forth. So I'm reading a book right now called "The Psalm for the Wild Built," which is about a monk that decides that he like wants to do a new vocation, and so he becomes a tea monk instead of a different the monk that he was. So he basically goes around with this cart and like makes different types of tea for people and offers counseling and like all this stuff. But it's a world in which the robots are artificially intelligent, and like 100, 200 years ago, they were like, okay, bye. Like, we're just going to go into the wilderness. And they were like never seen again. And he like comes across one who's like, hello, I'm curious about humans. And it is it's so delightfully pure. There's no antagonist at all. Like, everyone is just filled with good intentions and good vibes the entire time. And you think something nefarious is going to happen, and it just never does. And it's just like, it's so good. It's great. I highly recommend. But like, oh gosh, how many pages is it? I'm like so close to being done. I really should finish because I'm on page 100, and the book is 147 pages. So,
oh my gosh. Okay.
It's so short. But I've been reading it for weeks because like 100 pages in, I'm like, I feel like reading comics. And so now I'm reading comics. But because that is something that I guess I thought I would drop, and I just don't want to. I just love them so much. Which is nice.
I go through periods, my entire time as a comic book reader, I've gone through periods of intense, voracious reading and then nothing at all for months or even years. Mm-hmm. And I'm in one of those quiet periods right now where I've just not been able to prioritize it, not been able to have it be part of my weekly routine, because other things, family, and then the few things that I do make time for is mostly, film and TV, because I can watch that with other people for the most part.
Right.
That can be a way that I spend time with friends or family.
Sure.
And reading tends to be a more solitary activity, so I don't have a lot of time for it right now. But there, a couple of years ago, I did have more time for it, and a couple of years from now, I probably will again. Mm-hmm. I have been trying to read like a few pages of prose before like a book before bed, and I've been doing that for about a month now. And I'm working my way through a philosophy book, a 300-page book by Aquinas. And I'm
just a bit of light reading.
Just 10 pages of it or so before bed. I'm like 200 pages into that 300-page book over the last like month or so.
That's impressive. That's it's like philosophy is not typical bedtime reading. So
no, but I read like one chapter. It's broken into these really short chapters. So I read like one chapter or so, and it's like interesting stuff to chew on while I drift off to sleep. But yeah, so for me, it's book reading tends to be lower on the priority list usually, and comics tend to suffer from that. But then usually what happens is some new graphic novel or drops, or an event happens that sort of makes me curious, piques my curiosity, and I pick it up and start reading again.
What I found is that, like you said, like you have slots where you can only remember certain things. That's how I am with comics, where if I cannot remember what happened in the last issue. I just cannot do it.
It's a month apart,
Even sometimes when they're bi-weekly or bi-monthly, I should say. And like, I just, it's every 2 weeks, but I still can't remember. So arcs are consistently 6 issues, so they can put them in a trade paperback. And so I basically wait 6 months or, 3 months for them to build. And then I read them in one swoop. And then I just read the next and the next swoop and the next and the next swoop. Unless I intensely need to know week to week or every other week or whatever, what's happening. It's the only way I can. It's the only way I can really do it. But that's why I think I'm in my comic zone right now, because just a lot of stuff has built, up to 100 issues of issues that I've not read. So I'm like, well, it's time to start cracking down. And it's working. I'm happy to keep it because it's reading is a priority for me. But like I said, I only have 20 minutes, sometimes 20 to 40 minutes of television watching, alertness, never mind reading. So it's
Right.
even less.
Different level of
Yeah.
alertness.
So,
Yeah.
but comics just requires a little bit less concentration.
Sure.
So.
Yeah. See, you prioritize reading in that way, and I think I do more audio content than you probably do.
Totally. I listen to mostly
and
audiobooks, but I don't listen to near the amount of podcasts that you listen to.
I still listen to quite a few podcasts. And now regularly though, right? I have a few mainstays, and they are actually very tied to my like routine. Like they're tied to like certain, okay, this one is a Monday morning show. This comes out on Monday morning. This comes out on Monday afternoons, and like Monday afternoon, sort of while I'm doing the dishes or laundry or whatever, this is what I'm listening to while I'm doing that. You know, it's very like they fit into my routine in that way.
I get
like,
that.
This is when I have time for this one.
I do one that comes out every morning. It's like 15 minutes, and so I like that's the first thing I listen to as I drive to work.
Yep.
Because I know that like I'm going to do it by the time I hit the bridge. The episode is over, and then I move on to the other thing. So, and I throw off the Emperor's Groove when I don't.
Yes.
Like, when I don't do that, it really bothers me.
Yes. I totally. I have been that way for years with my podcasts, where like there were, you know, when I commuted, it was like, oh, this is my Thursday afternoon commute show. And if like that episode was late or whatever, right, I'd be like, it's Thursday afternoon and I'm commuting, but the show isn't out. What am I supposed to do?
Yeah.
What am I supposed to do?
Drives me wild.
Don't they know? They know that I need this content?
Yep. And they're like, that's it. You know, truthfully, that's why I favor the audiobook.
It's always there.
Because it's always there. It's always there. And it's downloaded to my phone. So I don't have to worry about reception or anything.
So this is like an audiobook is like a movie to me. Let me go with me on this metaphor. This is a movie, and podcasts are like TV, where it's like if I'm going to make time to watch this movie, I'm going to fall behind on TV. And the same thing goes for I want to stay current on a lot of these podcasts. A lot of them are news based, you know, tech news or whatever.
Sure.
And it's like, but if I fall behind, like I want to listen to yesterday. That's going to be old news already. Like I'm going to have read the you know what the latest development is, and now I'm listening to what happened yesterday.
Yep.
You know, I've sort of it loses its luster. So it's like it's again prioritizing, it's choosing. It's like, all right, I really want to read this book. You know, there's a biography of the Beatles producer that just came out a few months ago, and I listened to my put other stuff on pause so I could listen to the book about George Martin and finish it, and then okay, now I'll go back to pick up some of these podcasts again. It was great. It was worth it. It was worth it. But yeah, like there's stuff like that where like, okay, I'm gonna make space for this one. This is important. Or like, oh, it's summer and a lot of my podcasts are sort of having a little bit of a lull. I've got more room now for a book here to listen to an audiobook. But the podcasts I tend to favor those. So that kind of, I think that's the thing that I prioritize audio above reading, partly because my brain at this stage of my life can handle that better than reading. I have more attention span for it and can absorb information better that way. But then I also try to make time for like reading news on my phone or on my iPad. Like I've started using an RSS reader again in the last couple of months. And I check it, you know, a few times a week. I 3 to 5 times a week. I check it, and I have a small number of feeds in there, just ones that I really want to keep up with. And you know, at worst, there's a couple hundred headlines that I just sort of quickly scroll through and read the ones that look important, interesting. But like that's a way that I keep up with news because it's, you know, it's hard. I got to like make room for it, and that's the best place that I can sort of put it to keep up with it.
No, that makes perfect sense. To me, podcasts can be overwhelming, hilarious considering what we're doing right now.
Yes.
But I'm like, oh man, I missed an episode. Now I missed 2 episodes. Now I missed 3 episodes. Now I missed 4 episodes. I'm like, oh my gosh, I'll never catch up. And then like you said, like, so to me, it's just almost weirdly hopeless to try to keep up. And so I would prefer the audiobook. And that doesn't necessarily mean fiction, because being, you know, an English teacher, I like my work brain turns on every time I read a piece of fiction. And so I do a lot of biographies and memoirs and, you know, nonfiction and stuff like that. Like I'm listening to Sam Neill's memoir right now. He wrote while he was receiving treatment for blood cancer. And it's great because, one, it's read by the author, which I always appreciate.
I always prefer that.
Yeah, and I just know it's never going to be used for work, and I just need that. I need that separation a lot of times, because other times I will use audio books to, like, oh, I'm teaching Frankenstein or whatever, so I should re-listen to
brush
it.
up.
I should brush up, so that, like, whenever you start, like, I'm starting the Kite Runner soon, so, like, that means I got to listen to the Kite Runner. So I'm like, so it's fresh in my brain too, because that's, you're always getting prepared for the next thing. So, and that's also a priority, for me. But as far as geeky things are concerned, I guess, I guess it really does land on. I guess it lands on for you and for me too. It just lands on our interest, like, you know what I mean. So, like, sorry, Star Wars, you always win, unless it's
right,
something like Batman or Superman or whatever. And even then, sometimes Star Wars wins. Like, most of the time, I think Star Wars wins. It's like pretty much supplemented, like almost the rest of them. Maybe just because the content is more digestible, and
I think that's true for me anyway.
Yeah, right. A TV episode, 30 minutes, whatever. Like, that's more digestible than a bunch of comic issues that require a little bit more time, or a long movie, and just like the quality, like, so, like, I love my DC comics, but, like, I'm sorry, The Mandalorian is a better show than Titans, so, or whatever, so, which I also watch, but, like, so I get to it when I get to it.
Sure.
So Star Wars will just always kind of be there.
Yeah, it's true. And sometimes it's also just like the level of sort of energy that I have to commit to it, the sort of like you were talking before about wanting to sort of have something that's lower, that's easier to read, a comic versus a book. And sometimes one show versus another might be like, oh, this is going to just like be easier to watch. And
truthfully, that's why I fell off The Last of Us. I think that required a lot of emotional investment in a
great example, yes,
in a bleak reality. And I'm like, or I could watch this really slow sci-fi series from 1987, because, my God, the first season of Star Trek: The Next Generation is slow.
Oh, isn't it?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Oh my God.
That first episode with Q. Woof.
Oh, it's so slow, but because it's weird, because it just feels like the original series. You know what I mean? Like, it has the same pace, even though
it's got Roddenberry all over.
Oh my gosh, it does, and it's 20 years later. I was watching, I was like, yeah, this is the same guy. Like, there's no question, it's the same guy. But that was comfortable, and it actually was like the pace that I was looking for and hoping for. As a kid, I loved the movies, and now I'm like, I don't want to watch the Enterprise blow up. That's just exhausting. You
broke your little ships.
Yeah, right. Yeah. So,
yeah.
So it's just interesting how quickly things change.
Yeah, it is. Yeah. And it continues to change, like throughout different phases of life, it changes. And, but, I look forward to, and maybe this is a good place to end for today, when B and Flo are a little bit older, and we're both doing this a little bit, but as they get older, we can share that stuff with them more and more, right? And
totally.
I'm kind of jealous of people who have like middle schoolers or teenagers, where they can watch The Mandalorian with them every week, and it's not they're well past the age where it's like too violent for them or whatever, and they're well into the age where they can follow it and understand it, and you can talk about it with them and actually discuss it the way you and I discuss it, like, oh, what do you think is going to happen next? What do you think this means? What do you think? I'm jealous of people to a degree with kids who are in that age. Now, before you say anything, like, I'm cherishing every moment that I have at this age. But in a way, I'm sort of jealous of, like, oh, I can't, or at least put it this way, I can't wait until I can do that with her too.
Sure, I understand. I completely understand.
Yeah. I already, like, you recommended a Superman book that I've been reading with her, and she seems to be loving. So, like, you can do that a little bit at this age, but it's only going to get better.
Sure, I agree. I mean, I'm like not so subtly like influencing we've talked about. But I mean, like, it's just because the stuff's kind of like out there for her in the first place. But like, we've been reading Jedi You Wish to Be, I think it's called, or something like that, and it's a Yoda narrated like book about you know, Luke and Dagobah and stuff like that. But the Yoda, like, he's like, oh, you like Luke Skywalker, you want to be a Jedi too? Oh, come with me. And he's like, all the Yoda isms that you hear him say through a bunch of movies are kind of like weaved into this little kid story. And I didn't think that she was gonna like it, and it turns out like I got like some adaptation ones, and like Star Wars I Am a Wookiee because she likes Chewbacca, Chewie, you know, and like whatever else. So, but like, it's that Yoda book that she likes. Like for some reason, like that's the one that we read it 3 times tonight before we went to bed. So, which is hilarious. Though she met Grogu first, because I have a little Grogu in my office, and she has a stuffed Grogu.
Nice.
And so she keeps looking at Yoda and going, Grogu. And I'm like, no.
Not like, quite.
Yoda.
She's got time. She's
18 months. She'll get there.
She'll figure it out.
The fact that she can differentiate between R2-D2 and Luke and Yoda and whatever else and say their names, like, that's good enough for me right now. But she's getting it. She'll like tap Yoda's picture and go, it's a little different. So, but it's all good. It's all good. Frank, where can the people find us?
You can find us at you can support us at patreon.com/thoughtbubbleaudio. That helps to pay for the shows and keep them going. You can find Beer with Geeks at beerwithgeeks.com or thoughtbubbleaudio.com, and you can email us at beerwithgeeks@gmail.com.
Excellent. Frank, this is a pleasure talking to you about things that we love, prioritizing our family above all else. And so, until next time, cheers.
Cheers.